Welcome to Philosophy Online. Today I'm going to show you two portraits. First, an abstract painting by Pablo Picasso, a portrait, and second, a realistic portrait by Leonardo da Vinci. Plato was pretty abstract. His disciple Aristotle was more practical. In fact, it is often said that Aristotle brought philosophy down to earth. While Plato's forms were independently existing, non-spatial, non-temporal somethings, Aristotle's form is something more practical. You probably already know what it is. Bertrand Russell said that Aristotle is Plato diluted by common sense. Aristotle was born in Greece, in Stagira in 384 BC. That's a Greek colony in Thrace, which is in Macedonia. Or it was in Macedonia. He was the son of a physician. His father, Nicomachus, was court physician to King Amyntas III of Macedonia. Amyntas was the father of Philip II, and Philip II was the father of Alexander the Great. The medical trade passed from father to son in those days, as did most trades. And Aristotle learned 200 years of medical knowledge from his father. He learned the therapy of diet, drugs, and exercise, how to check the flow of blood, how to bandage wounds, how to splint broken bones, anatomy, and dissection. He was fortunate enough to study when Greece was at the cusp of its medical knowledge. Hippocrates lived between 460 and 370 BC. Hippocrates died when Aristotle was 14. When he was 18, Aristotle entered the academy and studied for 20 years. Plato called him the mind and the reader because of his great intellect and his love for books. And Plato humorously divided the academy into two parts, the student body and the brain of Aristotle. He remarked that while most students needed a whip, Aristotle needed a bridle. Well, after the death of Plato, Aristotle left, and there are two theories as to why. The first was that he might have been angry that he was passed over as master of the academy, but as a foreigner, he was forbidden to hold property, and the master of the academy had to hold the property. The second theory, more likely, is that there was growing anti-Macedonian attitudes among the Athenians. Philip II sacked the Greek city-state Olympus in 348, the year Plato died, and Philip II sold many Athenians into slavery to finance his wars. Regardless, Aristotle left Athens for 12 years and became advisor to King Hermaeus. Hermaeus was a former student at the academy, but he was not as much a king as he was a vassal of Persia. He was a warrior who had acquired control of Troad, which is in northwest Asia Minor, and Aristotle was excited because he hoped to transform him into a philosopher king. Hermaeus invited Aristotle to join a philosophical center, but Hermaeus was eventually crucified by the Persians. Subsequently, Aristotle was invited to tutor the future Alexander the Great. Alexander was only 13 at this time, so he wasn't great yet. He was only just Alex. But here was a true opportunity to create a philosopher king. He remained until Philip II's death in 336, when Alexander became the Great. He became king. And Alexander sent Aristotle back to his hometown of Stagira to create a code of laws and help rebuild a city that had been devastated by war. In 334, Aristotle returned to Athens and founded his own philosophical school, the Lyceum. You'll learn more about Aristotle as you read the chapter this week and do the assignments. Here's to a good week in philosophy.